choose to call another person and switch their service in a moment's notice. And in today's world with AI, you have got to be the sharpest you can possibly be. I talk about this in all my keynotes that I give. The AI will go get you to a meeting, it will not get you through a meeting. Okay? Another big component, compassion. Real quick, anybody know the 3 layers of compassion? Because this is very serious in the industry that you're in. Take a stab. There's no really wrong answers, and even if they're all wrong, I'll just nod my head and say it's a good answer. 3 layers of compassion. Who wants to take a stab at it? Andy?
Get it, Andy.
I have no idea.
No idea?
No idea.
All right, well, when you have somebody new call your office, that's stranger compassion. And they start talking about what they're doing. You don't know them, but you're listening. They're stranger. You don't know them. But the minute you start to develop a relationship, it becomes a familiar compassion. And if it's really tight, the final layer is family compassion. Those are the 3 layers. And I don't know, but your tagline is pretty much about being familiar, right? I don't have to say it for y'all to know it, but it's so important. Like, wow, every person I talk to could be a stranger, but if you're not listening to them, then they're going to understand, they're just in it for a KPI or just to try to get through the day. Okay? Here's another one for you. Why do you think curiosity's on there? Ethan?
I feel like all of us are curious about who who our client is. They want to get to know them.
Why?
Because it helps build a stronger relationship.
Ooh, you're so close to the. Oh, you almost landed that plane. Curiosity builds trust. It's not about answering questions. The minute I'm starting to talk to somebody, I was talking to Josh, didn't know him, and the minute that Josh and I shook hands, we became familiar with compassion, at a compassionate level. Does that make sense? All right. So curiosity isn't about asking questions; it's about gaining trust. All right. You think about approachable. I put this in my book. It's the resting you-know-what face, right? How long can you carry a smile? Smile, smile, a little bit of smile. He's smiling, maybe laughing, not sure. She's curious and listening. Just drinking an energy drink. Smile. Hey, do you know how far a smile goes when you in the insurance agency? And especially when someone calls fired up, how do you become relatable? Right? I share a story about being reliable as well. That when I was in Philadelphia and I was trying to grow my business, I won a deal where I was going to do a rack and stack on a weekend. Basically, I had techs coming in to a large company. It was my first company I ever broke in Philadelphia. And they had to show up on the weekend. And there was 3 techs that had to show. 2 of them showed. At the time, I was paying $13 an hour. Times have changed. It was 22 years ago. I showed up the next day. I showed up and did rack and stack. I didn't know what I was doing, but for the whole day I worked, and that manager remembered that and started talking about that. It wasn't about the problem. It was about how I resolved the issue. So relatable, being reliable, absolutely critical. The reason why the pyramid looks like it is because this one is what your company stands for. Okay? And what I will give you time to do, if we have time for it, is you fill out which of these attributes for this company do you feel you need to hit on to get to the ultimate goal of getting to the it factor. And usually the hardest one you have to get to will go to the top. The foundational ones are the ones that pretty much God gave you. Okay? Now flip it to who you really are. You don't necessarily have to be the strongest with being consistently adaptable, reliable, or executing. Your equation could be completely different. For instance, for me, my equation is consistently, authentic, reliable, enthusiasm. That's my foundational care framework from a personal perspective. When you can overlay both of them and you're not that far off on how you got to the top, that's how authentic you are. People talk all the time about being authentic, but they don't really understand what that really means. It's almost as if they don't understand what the it factor is. It's not an athletic term. It's a human term that every single one of you have the ability to create. in every one of your conversations that you have. Think about that. You listen to the NFL draft and they talk about, man, these players have the it factor, and you're like, it's such a defunct word to use if you're not applying it to everyone in this world. And I think all of us have that capability, right? So if you have time, if we have the time to do it, I would love for you to take the time to figure out, what does your agency look for after these 4 attributes? What comes next for them? And then what's the hardest? And if you have a pen, take a second and fill them out real quick. Oh God, I didn't give you. Let me give you one. Sorry about that.
Okay.
I should have been more prepared. Here you go. Start with this one. Yep. Got pens? So think about, Glory, from your aspect, you're dealing with people all the time, clients, both commercially and your everyday client that you deal with. Which one of those attributes helps you get to the top after your foundational ones? Because these should be the foundational cores for your business.
Mine would be curiosity and compassion.
Okay, so there's 3 right there. What would be the third one as you continue to build up?
Approachable.
Ah, why?
Because if you come in there rude and nasty, or they're rude, well, I can't control them.
No,
But
you
I
can't,
have to
but you
be.
can control your...
Yeah, I have to be. And respectful. We have to respect them and their wishes. And
So that's you brought up a very important one. Respect. I put unconditional underneath that. Josh, why is respect so important?
Builds trust. If I can't respect you, you're not respecting me, there's no trust, and I don't want to give you any of my information or have you help insure my house, and because I can't trust that you'll be there if we can't have that mutual respect. I don't have to like you, but you have to at least have that respect. So.
There you go. Other ways of showing respect. Any ideas?
Listening.
Yes, thank you. So true. Never sit in the lobby. If you're ever in a lobby, unless you're at a doctor's office, always stand. Even if they're a half hour late, never sit in the lobby. The minute you sit, it shows that you're not ready for that conversation. And when that manager finally comes out after months of you trying to meet with them and you're sitting in the lobby, how's that look? It doesn't look that good. In the world of AI, it can take notes for you. Maybe in a lot of your phone calls, it's actually taking notes for you. But how about pulling out your pad of paper and still taking notes anyways, because you care more about making sure you don't miss anything than an AI system. That's building respect. When I was in Pennsylvania, if you guys are you familiar with DaVita? You ever heard of DaVita? It's the largest blood dialysis company in the world, or certainly in the United States. And I remember Mike Huff. I would call this manager Mike Huff every single day of my life, trying to get a hold of him. And I had call sheets everywhere, and I had recruiters waiting for business. I didn't have any business on the board, and I'm like, what's happening? And so one day on the way to work, I'm like, you know what? Today I'm not making any phone calls. Today I'm writing letters. And I wrote a letter to Mike Huff. And I didn't write a letter about everything that the 811 group or Brooksource could do. I wrote a letter about who I was and why I was in Pennsylvania with my wife, trying to make friends. Really just trying to make friends before even talking about staffing. So 3 days later, he calls me. It's Jonathan, Mike Huff. I'm like, Mike Huff! My God, how are you? How you been? I've been trying. He's like, hey, hold on now, calm down. I'm not calling you because of all the calls you've made. I'm calling you because of the letter I received. It was genuine, it was different, and it stood out. When's the last time we wrote a personal letter?
Wow.
I implore you to get back to writing a personal letter. I beg of you to write one personal letter today to somebody, to one of your clients, to say thank you. All right? It went so far. So I actually took one of my recruiters who would find the individuals to go to work for them. Well, that was from Pittsburgh. I knew Mike Huff was from Pittsburgh. And I don't know, it's like a cult in Pittsburgh, black and yellow. So those two got together, and it was as if I wasn't even in the meeting. Like, I could have left. 3 weeks later, we broke them. And they became the largest company at that point that we had worked with for my organization. And still to this day, we work with all the DeVito locations across the country. Comcast, pretty big company. 180,000 people were working there when I walked in the door. There was a company that had 185 IT consultants. It was their primary vendor. I didn't think I was ever going to get in there, but I told my staff we were never going to ask for business. We were going to continue to learn. They were so large, we needed to learn first, staff second. So 2 years go by without ever asking for business. But when that big client became complacent, guess who was ready to kill? We were. And so we went and we built relationships, and we finally got the phone call, and they called us, and I said, why are you using it? Well, because the other company became complacent. Now, I didn't put complacent on here because we're trying to build positive words. If you look at my care framework, do you see a negative word? There isn't. There isn't. What I want to tell all of you is that every day is an interview. Every day you're interviewing. Again, you're going to leave here. You're going to have a phone call. Pipe explodes. Health issue. And they need you right now, then and there. And if you say, you know what, I'm really busy. I'll get right back to you. I'll call you in an hour. And 2 hours go by. You've crushed. You have literally dropped to execution off of what you said you're going to call in an hour. It's 2 hours later. They're already gone. And again, I say to you today, in today's world, there's a lot of options out there. And with AI, and everybody wondering if it's going to replace, you have to be the best version of yourself every single day. Hence, why my company is called Soul Focus. It's the head and heart. It's those moments in the day where your head and heart come together and create an it factor. A memory like I just shared from 27 years ago when I had a house fire. And I called this agency and I was like, hey, this is who I'm going to say.